All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's double check everything, make sure that we are in process. Click the live button.
Double check.
All right, we are good. Excellent. Very, very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen. On Mondays, I do this special free class for those who might be interested in pursuing getting a real estate license. So I do this complimentary class just to try to help those who are looking to do a little bit more research to try to see if they can locate a school that would best suit their style and their needs. So online real estate school inc.com, ladies and gentlemen, is a live streaming class. Our class starts September 5th. We offer morning classes 9 to 1, and we also offer evening classes 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Starting September 5th. That'll be our last class this year because it is an 8-week class, and that'll take us through September and into October. And then once you complete your 75-hour state requirement, you are now eligible to take the state exam. The state exam is only going to be $49, but you cannot take the state exam until you first have your transcripts from a school registered with the state that says that you have completed your 75 hours and completed 2 in-class tests that preps you for the state exam. So that is how it works in the state of Pennsylvania. The 75-hour state required class by a school registered with the state to offer these courses. My school is registered. And so what I do, ladies and gentlemen, is I also run this free class on Mondays to try to help students do a little bit more research about what they're going to experience in the classroom. My name's Warren Nelson, ladies and gentlemen, and I am a broker of record in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm also the director, owner, and professor of this school as well. I've been doing this for, I guess, 30 some odd years now. And I am able to explain the process a little bit better than some. So let's get started, shall we? You're going to see the number 4 as a common denominator in my class particularly. There are 4 forms of ownership. There are 4 types of title or deed. There are 4 forms of homeowners insurance. There are 4 types of assessments. And so you're going to see that that 4 is a commonality that over and over again that we'll be seeing. And you'll pick up on this as we go through the class. So let's talk about the 4 forms of ownership here in Pennsylvania. When one person buys a property, let's say Sally is buying a property. She's single, she has no significant other, and she's buying her very first property. She will take the ownership, which is known as ownership in severalty. Ownership in severalty, which means she's severed from anybody else on the deed. She is the only person on this deed. Since she's buying this property in her own name by herself, she would take ownership in severalty. The next form of ownership that we have here in Pennsylvania is when 2, 3, 4, 5 people buy a property together. Let's just say that you are doing a joint venture. You and 2 other investors are buying a property. So all 3 of your names will be on the deed, and there's 3 different last names. In this situation, under a joint venture, 3 of you are buying the property together. The deed will be known as tenants in common. You each have a common interest in the property. And so this is a legal variable. Now, again, we in the real estate business are not allowed to tell someone which form of ownership they should take. Our job is to make sure that the deed is free and clear of any liens, judgments, mortgages, and encumbrances. But We're not allowed to tell somebody which form of ownership they should take, but you need to know the 4 forms of ownership that we do have here in Pennsylvania. So the second form of ownership is known as tenants in common. So 3 people buy a property. They each have a common interest in that property, and therefore the deed that they will acquire is known as tenancy in common. When a husband and wife or a legal married couple buy a property in the state of Pennsylvania, that form of ownership will be known as tenancy by the entirety. And this form of ownership gives a legal spousal survivorship right to the surviving spouse should anything happen to the one spouse. So under this form of ownership called tenancy by the entirety, this is strictly for the husband and wife or the legal married couple in the state of Pennsylvania. And this form of ownership means you wouldn't have to leave the property in a will to your significant other. The deed already covers that variable. So in tenants in common, you would have to leave a will because the deed does not have an inheritancy right. But with tenancy by the entirety, the surviving spouse automatically receives the property, no probate, no will required. And so this legal form of ownership is designed specifically for the legal married couple. The 4th form of ownership we have is known as joint tenancy. And this here is a big misnomer because really under joint tenancy, all you can do is live in the property and die in the property. It is a form of survivorship. And let's just say that 3 of you are buying a property and you made this error and you bought the property under joint tenancy because you have a joint venture, you're joint partners, and you just thought naturally that joint tenancy would be the way to go. Unfortunately, that has a legal variable that of ownership. And only the surviving, the last tenant, the last owner of that property actually has any right in that property to will it, to give it away, to sell it. You would not be able to do much under joint tenancy, and you might have to get a partition suit and a judge to probably get out of it if you don't want to wait around to die. Now, this is the biggest title misnomer to joint tenancy. I've heard so many people give me so different many meanings of joint tenancy, and they really should. Then this again is why we're legally not allowed to recommend any form of ownership, because many people don't understand the legal variables. Let's take Tunnels to Tower. Let's take the Salvation Army. Let's take the Ronald McDonald House. These are charitable organizations that would like to maintain control of the property, but use the property in a very charitable way, like Tunnel to Towers. Somebody will get this property and have this property for all their days, but they might not be allowed to will that property or give the property away. That property might revert back to the charitable organization so that the charitable organization can now use the property to help someone else. So in this situation, the charitable organizations might want to set up joint tenancy. This way here, the property would revert back to the charitable organization after its use to help a family, and first responder, and so forth. So the 4 forms of ownership and severalty, where one person or one artificial person buys a property. What is an artificial person? That's a corporation, ladies and gentlemen. In the state of Pennsylvania, a corporation is an artificial person and can own property. Under the Partnership Act in Pennsylvania, partners can own property. The partnership's name can own property in the state of Pennsylvania. But an artificial person is a corporation. So a corporation or a single person could own property under the first form of ownership, which is known as ownership in severalty. One person or one artificial person owns the property. Now, let's take this first scenario. Remember, I said Sally's buying a property, but years later, she meets the love of her life and decides to get married. Does she want to change the deed from ownership and severalty and now use tenancy by the entirety, the deed that's good for a married couple? Well, that is a financial decision. If there are no children involved, then it might not be a necessity. But if there are children involved, and should something happen with the relationship, we might want to consider changing the deed so that the children have a roof over their head, surviving spouse has a property, should anything happen. So these would be financial affairs, putting your financial affairs in order. Do we need to leave the property in a will, or will the deed cover these variables? And so in this class, you're going to learn these things in the real estate arena of the power of the deed, the power of a will or the lack of it, and how you want to be able to leave property to your loved ones by understanding the deed and your financial affairs. A will might not be the way you want to go, but a trust probably would be the way you want to go. Or the deed. So having an understanding of the four forms of ownership is crucial to your financial picture. So ownership and severalty is the first one. Tenants in common, where 2, 3, 4, 5 people buy a property, but they're not married. In this situation, more than one person's buying the property, but not married, they will take ownership, tenants in common. They each have a common interest, but they can't will the property under this deed. They would have to leave their share of the property in a will or other means to somebody in the future, because the deed does not automatically have any survivorship rights under tenants in common. And this is why it's important to not only know the deed, but the power of it or lack thereof, so that your financial affairs are in order as well. The third one is that tenancy by the entirety. Tenancy by the entirety is for the legal married couple, and that does afford the surviving spouse survivorship rights, so that the property would automatically go to the surviving spouse. No will, no trust, none of that would be required because the deed already covers this variable. And joint tenancy, again, as I said, is a game of survivorship. All you could do is live in the property and die in the property. And you will see that charitable organizations usually will take ownership of property in this form, joint tenancy. All right, so there's your 4 that we will go over in a class. And they certainly, as you understand, have legal ramification. And so when you buy a property, or when you become a real estate agent helping someone to buy a property, then these things are much more at the top of our list of understanding to protect the client's interest and to protect your interest when you are buying a property. Now, there are 4 types of deeds. We just talked about the 4 types of ownership, the way you can take ownership of the property. But there are 4 types of deed that we work with in the state of Pennsylvania. The general warranty deed, the special warranty deed, the bargain and sale deed, and a quitclaim deed. The general warranty deed is the best of the best. And when you are buying a property, you want a good and marketable title. And so you want a general warranty deed. That means that everything is covered. Anybody ever knocks on the door and says that they own the property, your title insurance, which you will get under a general warranty deed, will afford you any protection so that you own this property without having to worry about anybody else owning it. The title company will defend your ownership interest in this property forever, as long as you own the property. So the general warranty deed is the best deed. the best, the clear, good, and marketable deed. A special warranty deed is the second form, and this we use in the estates. So let's say that mom and dad has passed away, left us, and your job as the executor or the executress or the trustee of the estate is to settle the estate. You have the power to sell the property, but your name's not on the deed. Mom and dad's name was on the deed, but you are allowed to sell the property because you're the executor or the executress of the estate. And in this situation, since you do have the legal right to sell the property, but your name's not on the deed, this would be known as a special warranty deed. Now we got general warranty deed, special warranty deed. The word warranty is title insurance. Warranty means insurance. And so that means we're getting title insurance with a general warranty deed, and we're getting title insurance with a special warranty deed. These are both extremely, very, very good. Top of the line. You really can't go wrong. Once you have title insurance, you're golden. So the general warranty deed and the special warranty deed. The third is the bargain and sale deed. And this is what you get, ladies and gentlemen, when you buy property at auctions. Let's say you're buying a property at a foreclosure auction. You're going to get a sheriff's sale deed or a master in chancery deed. This does not mean that you own the property. This doesn't say that you have ownership of the property. It's basically a receipt saying that you are the winning bid at the property and have a right to take the sheriff's sale deed and convert it into a general warranty deed. But the sheriff's sale deed is known as a bargain and sale deed. Notice the word warranty is not there. So we don't get title insurance on that, because in the state of Pennsylvania, you have to be careful where you go to auctions. If you're buying property in Bucks County, Montgomery County, utility liens and junior liens might be wiped out. But if you're buying property in Philadelphia, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, those utility liens and junior liens might not be wiped out. That means you just bought a property at a foreclosure and there's a $10,000 water bill. Well, you bought the $10,000 water bill as well, because in certain areas, these junior liens are not wiped out at the auction. And if you owe $10,000 water on the property you just bought at auction, then you're not going to be able to convert the sheriff's sale deed to a general warranty deed until this lien or judgment against the property is cleared. So a bargain and sale deed is what we get when we buy property at auction. Let's say we bought a property at a tax sale. Well, we're not going to get anything except what's known as a tax certificate, because in many parts of Pennsylvania, when you buy property at a tax sale, there is a redemption period. We have two types of redemption: statutory and equitable redemptions. All right, two types of redemption. And if there is a redemption period in that tax auction, that means you have to wait a statutory amount of time, maybe 12 months, to allow the individual who owns the property to pay the amount of taxes that were owed on the property back to you if you bought this property correctly at a tax sale. If you overpaid for this property at a tax sale, well, this is how you're going to be learning your lessons, because you're not bidding on property at a tax sale. You're bidding on debt. The delinquent taxes is what you're bidding on. But you might be making a mistake thinking that you're bidding on a property, and that could be a costly mistake. You might get lucky and end up with the property after a year or two, depending on the redemption period on the tax sale. But you could end up losing a ton of money in a tax sale as well, not understanding caveats. We certainly will go over those in the class much more clear. But what you should understand is you're getting a bargain and sale deed because you don't own the property, not yet. There still might be liens and judgments and encumbrances against the property that you bought at an auction, and we have to find out, because chances are you did not do a title search on the property before you bidded on it at the auction. Another common mistake that a lot of people make. And so when we're in class, I told you that I would teach you how to invest in real estate legally and ethically. Well, this is what I'm referring to. This is just one example that you might not understand what you're doing at an auction. What's the difference between a foreclosure auction and a tax sale auction? That's only two of many auctions that are available where you can buy property, but you do need to understand the caveats. So real quick, we just did 3 of the 4. General warranty deed, the best of the best. Special warranty deed, we use in the estates, the estate sale. Bargain and sale deed, this is what you get when you buy property at auction. And now the quitclaim deed, ladies and gentlemen. The quitclaim deed does not transfer ownership of property. A quitclaim deed transfers interest that someone had in a property. This is like a foreclosure. So you think that it's a great deal to go buy a foreclosure or a bank REO. And so the bank has this property for sale for, let's say, $80,000, and you know that this property is easily worth $200,000. So you believe that you're getting a great deal, that you're about to buy a $200,000 property from the bank or a foreclosure for $80,000. And what you don't understand is the legal addendums that you will be required to sign, saying that you understand in so many words that you don't understand that you are not buying property, but once again, you are buying the debt. What the bank is selling is the collateral, the security interest they had in that property. Their name was not on the deed. They don't own the property. They only had a right to foreclose on the property to try to recover their loan. That is it. This is a lien theory state. So the bank had a lien on that property. And when this individual stopped paying the mortgage, the bank had a right through the legal document known as a mortgage to foreclose. Now they went to auction to try to sell the property, and it didn't sell. They stayed, tried it next month, didn't sell, no bidders. Stayed, tried it again next month, no bidders. And now it becomes property of the bank in a way that's in their inventory, but not in the form of ownership. So now the bank has this property that they didn't want. The bank never wanted the property. The bank wanted their money, but it was unsuccessful at the auction of getting their money back. So now it becomes what we call an REO, real estate owned by the bank, which is a misnomer because the bank's name's still not on the deed. And so now they're selling a foreclosed property or an REO. And this is where a lot of investors think they're getting a great deal. But when they go to the bank and they give the bank their $80,000, the bank is going to give them a quitclaim deed and all this legal mumbo jumbo in the form of an addendum, saying that they're not transferring ownership, they're transferring interest in this property. We had an interest, the bank said, to get our money back. Since you are giving us our money back on this loan, you now have this property as collateral. But if you want this deed in your name, you're going to have to quiet the title. Could be a long process. So if you're not aware of what you're doing in the foreclosure process, if you're not sure what a quitclaim deed is, a quitclaim deed does not transfer ownership. A quitclaim deed transfers interest that one may or may not have had. I could have had, see this abandoned row home? I'm selling you this abandoned row home for $5,000 through a quitclaim deed. And all I'm saying is I'm transferring the interest that I had, if I had any interest at all, in this abandoned row home to you for $5,000. See how I just got snookered? I just lost $5,000 because I did not understand what a quitclaim deed does and doesn't do. So the 4 types of deed: general warranty deed, golden; special warranty deed, silver; bargain and sale deed, bronze, and the quitclaim deed, lead. All right. So you need to understand not only the 4 forms of ownership, but the 4 types of deed that may or may not transfer the property. So these are the 4s. There's also 4 types of homeowners insurance: HO1, HO2, HO3, HO4. There are others, but I'm just going to deal with the top 4 that we work with. The HO1 is a basic homeowners insurance policy. And a lot of first-time buyers will use this type of insurance to qualify for the loan, to satisfy the lender's requirement, and satisfy the ratios requirement for the lender as well. We might not be able to afford the best homeowners insurance right now because we need to get the loan and we got to stay within the ratios in order to do that. So the HO1 is a basic insurance policy, but it wouldn't cover any kind of water damage from inside the property and a bunch of other stuff like the weight of snow or the roof caving in or part of your building collapsing. That would not be covered under an HO1, a basic policy. But under equitable title requirements, it would allow you to take ownership of the property and receive the mortgage of the property as well. And so HO1 is your basic. Your HO2 is what we call your broad. And this does cover the things that the basic doesn't. The HO2 will cover water damage from within the property. It will cover collapse of the roof. It will cover collapse of the property. It will cover falling objects onto the property. So your HO2, which is now known as your broad policy, covers many more things. And here's what a lot of owners find out. When they buy a property and they have this catastrophe of one way or another, if they make the mistake of contacting the insurance companies directly, they're going to pretty much lose. But if they're intelligent, they're smart, they're going to contact a public adjuster to work with. The public adjuster would be the route you would want to go to help you with any claims that you want to put in against the insurance company. They know how to work this much better than you, who are now dealing with a major catastrophe and dealing with the insurance company's tactics that you might not be aware of. So when you contact a public adjuster, one of the first things that the public adjuster says is, I need to see your homeowner's insurance policy. I need to see the declaration page. And when you give them the declaration page, you might hear the public adjuster say, sorry, you're not covered. And you're like, what do you mean I'm not covered? I'm paying homeowner's insurance. What does the homeowner insurance cover? This is the lesson. So a basic policy would not cover water damage from within the property. The pipes explode, the pipes freeze. That's not covered. The roof collapsed because of the weight of snow. A tree falls on the side of the building. That would not be covered under a HO1, a basic. And you might not know this until the tree collapsed on the property. And then you go and try to get it covered by the insurance only to find out that you're not covered. You didn't have the right insurance. So the HO2 would be the proper insurance, better anyway than the basic. HO2 is the broad. Your HO3 is a special form of insurance. And this covers even things that the broad wouldn't. You do need to shop around and be careful, but an HO3 would cover even unexpected things, but you would have to read the insurance policy to see what those unexpected things, like a nuclear explosion, for instance, mold maybe, because very rarely does an insurance policy cover mold. Insurance companies opted out. So mold usually is not covered under any insurance policy, but you might be able to find mold coverage under an HO3. You're not going to find it on HO1 or HO2. So, but an HO3 might cover even mold. But again, that's what an HO3 is. It's a special policy that covers other variables that the HO1 and HO2 doesn't. The HO4, ladies and gentlemen, is renter's insurance. So if you're a tenant and you're living in an apartment and the landlord says you need renter's insurance, then this is known as an HO4, tenant insurance, renter's insurance. And this covers your personal belongings. The owner will cover the structure, the unit, with their insurance, but your personal belongings are not covered under their insurance. And so to protect you, so that should the building catch on fire and you only have the clothes on your back and you have nowhere to go, an HO4 insurance policy might, providing you know what you're doing, put you up in a hotel, get you a new place, could be very, very good relief. And it's very inexpensive. It doesn't cost very much money for an HO4, a renter's insurance. And sometimes landlords will not allow you to move into the property without an HO4 or renter's insurance in the lease requirement. So the four types of homeowners insurance: HO1, HO, homeowner, HO, okay? HO1, which is a basic insurance policy, the cheapest policy that you can get, but will allow you to buy the property and satisfy the lender requirements. Then you would want to move up to an HO2, a broad policy, or an HO3, depending on your budget and the smartness of your insurance purchases. If you are a tenant, then a renter's insurance policy known as an HO4 would be required. So you see the four forms of ownership: ownership in severalty, tenants in common, tenants by the entirety, joint tenancy; four forms of deed: general warranty deed, special warranty deed, bargain and sale deed, quick claim deed; four types of homeowners insurance: HO1, HO2, HO3, HO4. We even have four types of assessment. Assessment. This is a big one because this word literally has four different meanings. So let's start with tax assessment. So your property, you base the taxes that you pay on the property on the assessed value of the property, which is different than fair market value. So we'll talk about that as well, the difference between assessed value and fair market value. For tax purposes, your property has an assessed value. Let's give you an idea. Let's say that your property is worth $100,000. You can easily sell it today to anybody. Fair market value, $100,000. But the assessed value is $25,000. All right. It's not what you can sell the property for. And so a lot of investors don't understand the difference between assessed value and fair market value. An assessed value is used for tax purposes at a percentage of the fair market value. So you'll see a lot of young investors saying, well, I'm only giving you $25,000 for this $100,000 property because the assessed value says it's $25,000. They don't understand the difference between assessed value and fair market value. Fair market value is what we get for the property, so $100,000. But assessed value is what the government is using for an equation to tax the property. Okay, so that's known as tax assessment. If you're moving into a condominium, this is called condo assessment. And based on a square footage of the condominium, you could be paying condo association fees and condo assessment. Association fees is for maintenance. Assessment is for repairs afterwards. And so when you're moving into a condominium, there are many variables that you have to understand: horizontal law, property law, condominium law. And then you have to understand what's the difference between condo association fees and condo assessment. And they get added onto the mortgage. And your mortgage is a little different because the taxes are not included in the mortgage in a condo. So when you become a real estate agent and you take this class, you'll learn the difference between selling a house, a single family residential property, and you're selling a condominium. They're different variables. And so you would need to understand that. And that's what this class will go and delve into, the difference between a single family residential property and a condo. So condos have what's known as condo assessment, the second form of assessment. We just said tax assessment, the government uses. Now the association condo assessment for repairs. Special assessment, this is my favorite. This is a double dipping of the government. And let's just say that you live on a block and finally the city comes out and they fixed the street. It had all these potholes or sinkholes, maybe. The street was collapsing. The city might have come along and fixed the street. They might have fixed the curbs. They might have fixed maybe sewer lines. They might even have put new lights on the block. And you're like, finally, my taxes are going to work and paying for these things and are getting done. Well, yes, it's true that your taxes did pay for these things, but the government has figured out a way to double dip, and they call it special assessment. And now they're able to hit every house on that block, every property on the block, special assessment. And now they're going to hit them all up for the cost of the new street, the new curbs, the new street lights, and they double dip. Your taxes were supposed to pay for these things, but of course, the way the budgeting and the way that the use of money by government is done, didn't. It did, but it didn't, because the money was used for general funds of other interests and things. So the government now will hit you up with special assessment. And every house on this block will each pay their fair share of the new street, the new curb, the new street lights, and so forth. So this is called special assessment. And then when it comes to insurance, we have risk assessment. What type of insurance do we need? If you're going to be doing property management, then an insurance audit is absolutely crucial to your management skills to see where we should have more insurance and less insurance. This is known as an insurance audit, to do a risk assessment to make sure that risk is covered. The whole purpose of insurance, ladies and gentlemen, the whole purpose of insurance is to transfer risk. That's the whole purpose of insurance. So let's say you're doing property management and we have a slip and fall accident around the pool. And this young individual has to go to the hospital, get stitches, and of course, there's going to be a lawsuit. Well, guess what? Insurance is supposed to be in place for this variable. We already covered this risk assessment should this event occur. And as a property manager, you need to understand risk assessment to make sure that we have our bases covered from expensive lawsuits, because we live in a lawsuit world, ladies and gentlemen. We got slip and fall experts. We have breakers that like to hit their brakes in front of a commercial vehicle. All right. Hell, we even got people who want to jump in front of a vehicle and get hit by the vehicle because of a lawsuit or an out-of-court settlement. So we need to understand this market that does exist and how to cover this risk through risk assessment. So we have tax assessment, we have condo assessment, we have special assessment, we have risk assessment. So there are four forms of ownership, 4 forms of title, 4 types of homeowners insurance, 4 types of assessment. And these will be the things that you absolutely need to learn and understand to be in the real estate arena. Even if you're buying your own property and you're not planning on doing anything except living in this property, you need to understand the difference between an HO1 and an HO2 insurance policy. You need to know the difference between your tax assessment and special assessment. So knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And you need to understand it. So this required class that the state requires, make sure that we go over all these topics of understanding so that you have a very good grasp of real estate and the caveats of real estate. How are you going to leave this property? Who's going to get the property? What happens if you don't leave a will? What happens if you die testate or intestate? All right, testate and intestate. Do a little notes for myself as we go along. All right, testate and intestate as we go along. So testate means you died with a will. Intestate means you died without a will. And if you die in Pennsylvania intestate without a will, then you're going to end up receiving the poor man's will. No gender specificity meant, it's just what it's called. It's called the poor man's will. And that means that the city or the state will put together a will for you. They will decide how your assets will be dispersed. Property might be going to people that you did not want the property to go to, but because you did not put your affairs in order through a trust or, at worst case, a will, then somebody's got to decide for you how that property will be dispersed. And since you died intestate without a will, then the state will give you what's called the poor man's will. They will decide for you. But sometimes the deed covers this variable so that you wouldn't have to worry about a will or a trust if the deed already covered this event, this variable. So this is why we need to understand these things, ladies and gentlemen. Even if we're buying our own property, we don't want to manage property. We don't want to be investing in property. But guess what? The minute you buy a property, ladies and gentlemen, you're an investor. You're an investor. Let's just say, you've heard it before. You've heard it 1,000 times. We bought this property for $80,000 back in the day. Our neighbors just sold for $280,000. This is called equity. The difference between what we paid for the property and what it's worth today. So we bought the property for $80,000. Today, this property fair market value is worth $280,000. So even though when we bought this property, we did not intend to be real estate investors, it just turned out to be a great investment when we bought the property, because now it's worth $200,000 more than what we paid for it. So even when you're buying property just for yourself, you are a real estate investor. You just might not understand or know it until the time comes when you go to sell the property. Or let's say you don't want to sell the property. You know it's worth $280,000, but you don't want to sell. However, you certainly would love to have that $280,000. You can do, if you still have a mortgage, an equity loan, without a mortgage, I should say, an equity loan, or if you still have a mortgage, you might even want to do a refinance. So you have two choices. You could do an equity loan, you could refinance and take it out. So now let's say that you bought this property for $80,000, and let's say that you still have a mortgage on it. You're still paying, for instance. Now you want to get a new mortgage for the $280,000 because the property is worth $280. All right. So now you get a new mortgage for $280. You pay off the first mortgage of $80,000, and now you put $200,000 in your bank account. Yes, you have a new mortgage. Yes, you have new monthly payments, but you also have $200,000 in your bank account. And if you're smart, it will be in a HELOC loan, home equity line of credit. So now you can use the money anytime you want. $10,000 for this, $40,000 for this, $30,000 for this, because you got $200,000 to work with in a line of credit. So the property, the real estate, ladies and gentlemen, is an investment. And when you hear people say, we bought this property back in the day for this, today we can sell it for this amount, that is the equity That is the investment of real estate. You can't do this with a rental. You can't do this as a tenant. But when you own property, then you get all these rewards. Every month when you pay rent, you're losing money. Nothing happens. You gain nothing by paying rent. The only thing that you get is 30 more days in the unit. That's it. That's it. But every month when you pay a mortgage, you are building wealth. And so that's the difference between a mortgage and a rent. I have a free home buyer seminar that I run, ladies and gentlemen, August 28th. I show individuals how to get out of that renter's rut and into a home. You need first month's rent, last month's rent, and a month's security to buy a property. I'm sorry, to get an apartment. So you need first month's rent, last month's rent, and a month's security. And the security check, the credit application, is much more scrutinized now because of the court system and the hardship that it's taken owners and landlords to get tenants out of the property right now. So before they put you into the property, they are scrutinizing. There was a time, as long as you had first month rent, last month's rent, and a month's security, you were in. Those days are long gone, ladies and gentlemen. So now you got to go through a major security check, credit and background check, maybe even criminal, before you can get an apartment today, because it's very hard for the owner to get you out of the property because of the court system and the COVID-19 situation and the rent moratoriums that have clogged up the court system. So, but with grants and seller assist, you can easily buy a property. I just told you, you need first month's rent, last month's rent, and a month's security to rent a property. Why not use that money to buy a property? And you don't even need that much, because we can get you a $10,000 grant, $10,000 grant, like a Philly First grant. If you're in Philadelphia, there are grants in the county, and we can get the seller to assist you to buyer as well. With these two combinations, you don't need a lot of money. You need less money to buy a home than you do to rent a property. See, folks just don't understand this, ladies and gentlemen. And so they don't understand their credit. They don't understand. If you ever hear somebody say you should dispute something in your credit report, run away, because they're wrong. As I go over in my home buyer seminar class, somebody tells you you should freeze your account, run away, because these individuals don't know what they're talking about. They have no idea. And I have to work with individuals who have disputes on their credit report and froze their credit report. That's it. You can't do anything. You're not going to get anything. You don't get these things wiped off your credit report because you disputed it. It now goes on your credit report as a dispute. And now we're locked. We can't do anything. We literally have to take the dispute and open it back up in order to move ahead. So when I run this is a free class for those who want to get a real estate license, for those who want to get into the real estate business. I also run a major free class, which will be August 28th. Let me know. I'll be happy to send you the Zoom link to come into that class. It's free. But in this class, I teach renters who are stuck being in a renter's rut how to become homeowners. And wait do you see how easy it is? Wait do you see the things that you learn in this class? I'll teach you the proper way to use a credit card. I'll tell you exactly what the lenders are looking at when they look at your credit report and your credit score. I'll tell you about FACTA, a law that you're supposed to know. And there are a lot of things that I teach in this class directed for renters who want to become homeowners. And when you become a licensed real estate professional, ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly the course that you might end up going one day, where you're helping maybe sellers or buyers. And I personally like to help first-time buyers. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I still like helping the first-time buyers. They are the most appreciative of my clients and the ones that I like to help the most. So investors are the least appreciative and the ones I don't like to work with. very much. And so understand that I get you. I'm seeing your messages. I will make sure that you get the link for the first time buyer seminar that I'm going to be running on the 28th. And this is a big one, ladies and gentlemen. Lots attend. I had 140 signups last month, and out of that, 60 attended. Of the 60 who attended, 20 of them are now with a pre-approval. And that's just last month. All right. So that's how easy it is. And many of them need very little money to buy their property. Okay. That's the way it works, ladies and gentlemen. There's no slim shady with me. I'm not asking you for any money in this free class. And when I do the home buyer seminar, I'm not going to be asking for your credit card or telling you need to buy this and buy that. You will see that many credit repair companies are junk. They actually make things worse. And I'll show you exactly the proper way to buy a property, especially if you're a first-time buyer, through that class that I run called my home buyer seminar. All right. So I'll give you the link for that. These are the things I've done. I've been doing this for 30 years, ladies and gentlemen. I know what I'm talking about. I just gave you a slither of things that you're going to learn in this real estate class. Once you have a real estate license, ladies and gentlemen, you got a ticket to ride. You will never be broke. You will never be unemployed. You will always have a form of income. And in my class, we'll talk about it. Once you have that real estate license, you're not going to look for work anymore. Work's going to come to you. You're going to get emails and text messages and phone calls and mail saying, please come to work with us. Please come to work for us, because you have the commodity. You have the real estate license. You can go to work for Fortune 500 companies like maybe Walmart. They have their own tax department in real estate. They're always expanding. They need real estate. And any business that you see out there, Pep Boys, restaurants, and so forth, they're in the real estate business. Without the real estate, they wouldn't have their business. So Fortune 500 companies are always looking for real estate agents. Developers like Toll Brothers is always looking for real estate agents. They cannot sell the properties without a license in the state of Pennsylvania. So they can develop, they can own without a license, but they can't sell the property without the license in the state of Pennsylvania. So developers are always looking. Property management, always looking for people who have a real estate license. Franchises, take Wawa. They're expanding. They're big in Pennsylvania. They're big in Florida, or growing in Florida, but all points in between, they're not there yet. So they're always looking to expand their franchise, or not a franchise, I should say, because Wawa's not a franchise, it's privately owned. Southland Corporation, 7-Eleven, they're franchise, but Subway, Wawa, not franchise, but still always looking for licensed agents to help them expand. All right. Government, you want to get into government? One of the easiest ways to get into the government, become a committee person, a council member, is through a real estate license. This real estate license, ladies and gentlemen, will open up many doors for you. It'll open up many avenues, roads that you never thought would even ever come available. But because of this real estate license, a license by the state to earn income, this license will open up many opportunities for you. So I like to say that a real estate license is your golden ticket. And it really is. It is your passport to many, many things. You have no idea the marvelous surprises that await you once you become a licensed real estate professional. And it's easy enough to do, ladies and gentlemen. It's 4 years of college, but 75 hours in a state mandated class could change your life in ways that you never imagined, don't even know yet. So this is an investment in yourself. Getting that real estate license, now you have opportunities to earn income for you and your family, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck. And you could do it part-time. I would never tell you to quit your job and get into real estate 100%. You could do it on the weekends. You could do it in an evening. You can certainly do real estate part-time while you still have a full-time job. And that's one of the things I do recommend, because you got the benefits at the job, at least you should have. So absolutely get a real estate license and start real estate part-time. Wait till you see the things that drop in your lap. Maybe somebody was given a property by a relative and they don't want it and are looking to just get rid of it. Now you got a golden opportunity to buy a good investment because you were in the right place at the right time, because the real estate license afforded you this opportunity. So this class that I run, ladies and gentlemen, is for those who are looking to advance their career, their income potential, their status, and move on to things that they probably don't even know yet. Wonderful things, because they were smart enough to make this investment in themselves. As a real estate broker, I also teach individuals how to get out of the renter's rut and become a homeowner. And it's easier than actually getting a new apartment, but people just don't understand this. They just don't understand. So in this class, I'll teach you exactly how your credit score goes up and down, what the lender's looking for in a credit report, how you can use grants and seller assist to get a property easier than it is to get an apartment. You don't need first month's rent, last month's rent, and month's security. You need less than that to buy a house, but folks just don't understand this. And this is why I go out of my way to teach and teach and teach. It's in my blood, and I love it because it allows me to pay it forward. It allows me to help others. And in this process of helping others is my greatest reward. This is where it all comes back. For years, folks will remember their instructor that helped them get to where they are. Folks will remember that first person that helped them get that first house for years to come. And this is the reward that I get, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm now at that stage in my life where I pay it forward. Back in the day, as a youngster, I was very selfish. I wanted it all. Nobody get to know anything. I kept it all. But now, as life goes on and you get wiser and wiser, now I'm at a time in my life where I want to pay it forward. I want to help as many as I can before I leave this earth and go on to my next stage. All right, my next station, wherever that may be. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Warren Nelson. I am, as I said, a licensed real estate broker, and I am also a professor of real estate. I own online real estate school inc.com. This is my school. I have locations in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. I also own my own brokerage, ISS Realty, IS Realty. And a lot of my students go from the classroom into my brokerage so that they can learn on the job how to run a real estate business. The classroom is to help them get the license and learn the fundamentals, but after they get a license, then what are they going to do after they get the license? And so I also afford them an opportunity, and I'll talk about all your opportunities that you can have. And I'll talk about interviewing several brokers before you make a decision. But the education process is what you're going to be learning, how to interview brokers, what to ask, what to say. All that will be done in the classroom, the 75 hours. So, ladies and gentlemen, my next class starts, last class of the year, September 5th is the class. You do need to be enrolled by the end of the month. I've been saying September 1st, ladies and gentlemen, and yes, you can still be paid by September 1st, but it'd be wiser to be paid by the end of the month. The class is $598 for this state mandated class. You need to take this class in order to take the state exam. You can't work around it. So my class is $598. I broke it down into 2 monthly payments. $299 for real estate fundamentals, which is a 4-week class, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays for 4 weeks. And then 4 weeks for real estate practice, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So you only need $299 to get started. And then the following month, $299. If you still need other arrangements, if you're struggling with the $299 by the end of the month, let me know. Let me see if I can help you. Let's say you only got $100, $150, but you want to do the class, but you just couldn't come up with the $299. Don't let that hold you back. As I said, I'm paying it forward. Let me see if I can make arrangements with you to get you into the class, even though you might not even have the $299. So keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the money. It's a labor of love for me. Don't let the money be the reason to hold you up. All right. $5.98. I might not be the cheapest, but I'm not the most expensive. But I am, read my reviews, ladies and gentlemen, I am the most well-received school by students. They really, really appreciate the class and the things that they have learned in my class. So I love that I'm seeing all your comments for first-time buyer seminar. I will be happy to give you those links for August 28th. And wait till you see what I teach in this class. And again, online real estate school, September 5th, ladies and gentlemen, last class starts. And I will be happy to give you all the information that you need to be very successful in real estate. So my time has expired, as I'm being told, ladies and gentlemen. So this is it. I will be running another class next Monday, all the way up until September 4th, which will be the last class. So I'll see you again, hopefully. Look forward to seeing you in my class. I look forward to making you a licensed real estate professional. Be safe, be healthy, be happy. You have a text from me. Got any questions or comments? Hit me up in the text, ladies and gentlemen, as many of you have already done, so that I give you the link for my home buyer seminar as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it was a pleasure. Be safe, be healthy, be happy, God willing. I'll see you when I see you. Enjoy. Ciao.